So the new Snow White movie has got to be the worst premiere in recent history. It's absolutely awful. The ratings on IMDb are awful. The reviews are all awful. I myself, I'm going to be watching it very soon, and I'm going to be sharing with you my experience. But first, we've got to see all the memes that are coming up, the experiences of everyone who has seen it and who's commenting on it. Because apparently Snow White kind of leads this like weird communist revolution, and she falls in love with like a thief at the end. Like, she's a princess, and in the original story, she's supposed to like fall in love with the prince. But here, she is actually a communist revolution leader who falls in love with a thief. And she's not even white, as we know. So there's a lot wrong with this movie, and I think it's deserved. It deserved all the hate that it's getting. Rachel Zegler's Snow White is officially the worst movie of all time on IMDb. We see it here that it's being rated a 1.7 out of 10 on IMDb. And I also saw somewhere that it's being rated lower than The Human Centipede 2, which I never watched, but precisely I never watched it because I know how bad it was and how much people were complaining. So this is how bad this film is. It just came out. It had this like humongous budget that was supposed to allow it to be super successful, and now it turns out nobody's watching it. It's actually a whole like demise and failure, and Disney is going to lose so much money over this movie, and it's all because of Rachel Zegler. I mean, here she is, Rachel Zegler, watching her box office flop Snow White in an empty theater. I keep hearing this, that the theaters are just completely empty, like pretty much everywhere. This level of delusion should be studied. I'm getting serial killer vibes. She's just here like enjoying seeing herself, even if no one else is, because she is absolutely unlikable. You know, you would think that for a children's movie, they've got to put this girl she's supposed to represent a princess. She's supposed to be nice. She's supposed to be like sweet and likable and fresh and feminine, and she's just absolutely obnoxious. Like, from the moment I saw her, I was like, Jesus Christ, like, you know those people that you just meet and you just want to punch them in the face from moment one? Like, that's how I felt with this girl. I was like, I've never even met you, and I don't want to see you again. Like, get out of my screen. That's how obnoxious she is. And of course, she's not the type to take any sort of responsibility when it comes to her failure with this. And here's what she has to say.
Everyone who hates when I win. The winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
Girl, who lined up to see you? I'm sorry, it's not even personal. She's a cute girl. If she wasn't so annoying, people would like her. Like, she chose to be this way. She could have had people actually lined up to see her. But everyone who lined up, it's either because they wanted to see what Snow White was about, or they just wanted to make fun of the movie. That's why I'm going, to be honest.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Well, you're waiting for too much. This is not like, you know, the 1950s where maybe like an actor, they would just have to do like a very random interview like once every 5 years, and that was kind of it. And they were trained to be polite and likable. This is not the 1950s anymore. If you're out here being obnoxious, literally wishing like death, or like wishing like bad vibes to Donald Trump voters just because you don't agree with them, just being an overall annoying person, and I have clips here to refresh your mind. Why should people be lining up to watch your film? Like, it's just not the same vibe anymore. Nowadays, actors have such a more active role, some of them anyway. You know, they're on Instagram, like saying all these things. We know she had this whole deal with Gal Gadot because she's very pro-Palestine, and Gal Gadot, as we know, is from Israel. So if you're just an obnoxious, dramatic, overly woke person in a country and in an era that is so overly sick of wokeism, don't be sad. Don't be playing victim when people are over your film and anything that comes along with you. So this is actually super, super new. Like, it just came out, I think, today. But apparently the Snow White producer's son, let's see what he has to say, says, new, the son of Snow White producer Mark Platt absolutely unleashes on Rachel Zegler for ruining his father's movie. Jonah Platt is ripping the 23-year-old actress for getting political and ruining Snow White. The comment from Platt was found on Instagram after one user asked why his dad flew to New York City to talk to Zegler about tanking the movie. Platt specifically blamed Zegler and her narcissism for the film's flop. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. This is what actually happened, as we're seeing here. Apparently, like, this is the son who wrote this. Like, somebody said, your dad flew to New York City to reprimand a young actress. Any words in this? Because that's creepy as hell and uncalled for. People have the right to free speech, no? Shame on your father. I mean, this girl, she was hired to play Snow White, and she was talking badly about Snow White, the role of Snow White, the film, the original story, all from the start. She deserves to be reprimanded and more. I don't even know why she was hired to begin with. Don't come at me with this. Like, if you're somebody's boss and you're giving them the chance to portray this role that's so special to people, and this girl comes out here saying all the crap she was saying, I would be mad too. And this is costing millions of dollars, and it's also like a lack of respect to all the people that worked on this. Like, she's not the only person here. And yeah, he replied, Jonah Platt, you really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of enormous pieces of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country. I'm loving the drama right now. To reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie, for which he signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability. And let's read this again. She signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. As in, she was paid, like, part of her role, she didn't just have to play Snow White. You know, part of her role was literally to do publicity for this movie. And she did the opposite. She was saying things like, oh, well, like, I never even liked the original movie, or bringing all this political stuff, like, wishing bad things onto Donald Trump supporters, having all this beef with her co-star regarding the Palestine and Israel conflict, saying all these things about feminism and how it's bad for the prince, like all this absolute unnecessary things. Anyway, this is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Yeah, of course, like, free speech, like, you can say whatever you want. Like, I can stand here and say anything I want, but there are going to be repercussions. Whether that's YouTube banning me directly, whether that's nobody liking me and, like, nobody, like, watching my things, and that's good. There should be repercussions. You want to be a total brat and a total twat and annoying and disrespectful? I'm glad that there should be repercussions. In fact, there should be more than there are nowadays. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. Wow, completely agree. And I don't know this Jonah Platt guy, but good for him for standing up for his dad. I really wanted to share this with you. New Snow White movie summed up in 1 minute. So this is a parody, and you're going to absolutely love it because it's so much better than what the movie is.
Magic mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?
Let's see. Excuse me, your curtain. Please allow me to help.
Help? From you? Spare me your white savior complex.
I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you should know that
That I should know what? That some privileged white guy thinks his opinion matters? Get over your entitlement. I'm not some damsel in distress waiting for you to ride in on your high horse.
I'm really sorry. I was just trying to be kind.
Kind? If you want to be kind, disappear and take the patriarchy with you. Seriously, go away, stalker. You're weird. Weird.
You guys remember that, right? From that interview of her being like, oh, the prince was like a stalker, and he was like, weird. Like, this is the girl, like,
My queen, you're the fairest, but no longer the most evil.
wait, what? I mean, this is a joke, but that's literally the movie, and I haven't even seen it, and I know it's that. And before we even move on, let's take a minute, because I just realized we haven't talked about Rachel Zegler's skin. You know, I know everybody has talked about this, but let's talk about it just for 1 second, because it's so absurd. Like, I will never understand why Disney hired her to begin with. I feel like it's some sort of conspiracy. Like, either they were like, oh, let's hire someone who looks nothing like Snow White, who looks nothing like a character whose name, like, we're talking about Snow White right now because it's a girl that was born the color of snow. Like, that's why she's called Snow White. So I feel like they were like either like, oh, let's make this girl who looks nothing like her and see if people still go see her. And at that point, we have absolute control over our audience. Like, they're so dumb that we can give them a black Little Mermaid who's supposed to be a redhead, or we can give them, you know, like a drag queen Ursula, or we can give them more attractive villains. Like the villain in the Little Mermaid was more attractive than the Little Mermaid. Here, Gal Gadot is like infinitely more attractive than Snow White, and Snow White looks nothing like what Snow White is supposed to look like, but still our audience is going to go watch us. So I don't know if it was some sort of experiment like that, or if they're so far gone in their wokeness that they actually think that this is acceptable and that people are going to like this. But the problem comes that woke people are the first ones that don't really want to have kids. So if they should be appeasing to anybody, it should be to that half of society that actually believes in more traditional values, that wants to have kids, that are going to be reading these stories to their kids and actually taking their kids to the cinema to watch these films. So it's so absurd to be appeasing the woke beast when it's not even the woke beast that would give them money to begin with. This is the only Snow White you'll ever need to watch, 100%. I actually watched it recently and it's so beautiful. You know, it's got everything you want in a children's movie. There's a beautiful story in it. There's magic. There's a girl like that we actually want to be like why? I'm so tired of it. Why would we want to be some girl that's like being a communist leader? Like, we're so over that. We're so over that. Most women just want to, I don't know, be a little princess, even if for half an hour at the movie theater. Like, escape and think that you're this beautiful princess with all these animals and all these friends, and that the prince is coming to rescue you. We would so much rather have a moment of escape and fantasy with that than being like, you're going to be the communist leader. Like, cut me some slack. I'm so over these stories. Anyway, this is why Snow White failed. Okay, let's see here. Our very likable friend, Rachel Zegler. And again, honestly, I feel like Disney can't even cry right now. The Platt guy and whoever his dad is, like, I feel like they can't even cry. They can't even be like, oh, damn, like, you know, Snow White this and Snow White that. Like, you literally hire such an obnoxious person to represent your film. And you must have known people were gonna be like, what's this? She doesn't even look like Snow White. Like, and what is she saying? Why is she talking about Palestine or the prince, like, not deserving to be a part of this movie? Like, what's going on here? So I feel like in a way, they deserve what they're getting.
I'm a narcissist. Original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. And then it became like, I will elbow everyone out of the way to play the part. That people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
She's not gonna be dreaming about true love, because that's so oppressive. Like, all women should just be leaders. Girl, you're not even a leader yourself. That's the thing. Like, she's out here like making women who want to fall in love or have like a traditional love story feel bad and like pretend like she's over them, like above them. She's not even that. She's an actress, and that's a great job. Like, that's a beautiful job to have, but don't act like you're like the leader of some random like communist country or whatever it is. You're literally some girl who's had connections and who's had success to bring you to this role. So why she's literally like, you would think this is coming from like the president of Germany, and she's like, oh, you just want to fall in love? Even then I'd be like, what are you doing? But when it's somebody like this, it's so obnoxious, so unnecessary, and so irritating. And let's talk about the fact that they had to mess up the story. Why not just make a new story? You know, you want to have this girl that looks nothing like Snow White. You want to have a story that the girl falls in love with a thief or whatever it is. Just make a new film. You know, Disney, you don't have to keep making these live action movies of the original cartoons. You can just make a new story. You can just hire a creative writer or use ChatGPT or whatever it is and make up a new film instead of having to butcher these actual very loved classic stories.
To be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Let's go on with the memes, because otherwise I'm gonna get way too fired up here. But apparently the Dragon Ball film was absolutely awful. Never saw it, but I did hear that it was awful back when it came out. So congratulations to Snow White for dethroning the king. And this is actually from a few days ago when Snow White was at a 2.3 on IMDb, and it is currently at a 1.5. But it is currently, as we can see here, at a 1.5 out of 10. The Snow White memes keep getting better and better, but no, they'll say we're racist by saying that they should have hired a girl who has actually had fair skin. And you know, there's so many actresses, so many beautiful actresses out there that could have played her. And Snow White is originally like a very young girl, so ideally you'd have a very young girl with like very young looking features with very fair skin. This is the voice actress and singer in the Thai version of Snow White, and she herself looks far more like Snow White than the Rachel Zegler girl. And there's just so many like actresses that could have been good for the role. You all said that the brown girl looked nothing like Snow White, but when the Asian does it, all of a sudden the resemblance isn't important. The most disingenuous group of people on the planet. No, here's the thing. No, Snow White is originally like a story set in Bavaria in Germany. So you would want a German girl ideally, but the main point here is that she has skin as fair as snow. That's why she's called Snow White. And this girl here does have skin as fair as snow. So even though she's Asian and she's not German, I would still prefer her to play it than Rachel Zegler because she's closer to the actual main character description than Rachel Zegler will ever be. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the wokest on them all? Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest on them all? And the mirror shows this. I'm unsubscribing you. Yeah, that's another thing. Like putting Gal Gadot as like the ugly villain who's supposed to envy the beauty of Snow White is absolutely absurd. And that's why I'm saying like these things start to feel like an absolute conspiracy theory. Like it really starts to feel like they want us to fall for these things. They want to see how dumb we are. Like they want to be like, you don't even know what white means anymore. You know, Snow White, she doesn't even have white skin. For the most beautiful girl, we're putting a girl who's actually not even that beautiful in comparison to the counterpart. Like, I feel like they're trying to mess with our heads. And I'm very glad that people are fighting back, not watching these films, not rating them well, and denouncing online how absurd they are. Dwarf is furious at Disney for discriminating against real dwarves in their monumental film flop Snow White. This clip will receive 10 times more views than the film itself. This is another thing that happened, as you guys must have seen, that guy, the one that was in Game of Thrones, he and other people with dwarfism were supposed to play the roles of the dwarves in this movie. But the guy from Game of Thrones started saying that, you know, this was politically incorrect and it was inappropriate. And he was doing this all probably in a very smart attempt to have nobody ever hire any other dwarf except for him from now on. And now they had to put like CGI dwarves, making it all even more ridiculous. So something else that was kind of weird about this film, you know, what else could have happened, but the final scene of this movie, it really just seemed like a Diddy white party. And I feel like in a moment that we're having so much controversy around this, and especially with kids and the white parties and all the weird stuff that has been going on, I don't know why you would want to do something like this. Why you would want to do like something that resembles a white party at the end of a children's film in a moment with so much controversy surrounding this. Can someone explain it to me? All right, guys, so that was it for today. I'm actually going to be trying to watch this film personally so that you don't have to watch it, and I'll be sharing with you all the other disasters that I surely missed here and that I will have to sit through at the cinema, and I'll be sharing those with you. So stay tuned, subscribe, give me your likes and give me your comments, and I'll be talking to you very, very soon.